Hello. I'm going to say soon enough we're going to be finished with the wood stove thing. It's getting warmer and warmer. Would have been on earlier today, and the reason I wasn't was I get to attend Godot engine audio team meetings, which is really neat because they're all much better at me than me at the engine coding stuff like that. They're working on an engine that they originally got from Juan, who made Godot in the first place, if I remember correctly. And there's a certain amount of technical debt in there, and people trying to do various things. Turns out I can show up and talk about things like bringing plugins and whatever in there, but also it means I get to be in there as people start to explore the game engine and figure out how the audio stuff works. For instance, the always run a sort of sample rate conversion on everything in the engine, but this is largely because it starts with WAV files and things in Godot, and then the playback engine always is able to specify a pitch at which it's played back. So all of the sound coming in is sort of automatically repitched and then brought in with a pretty simple cubic interpolation, and that's what goes to the output streams. So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening there. But today is about me trying another thing, but in plugins rather than in Godot engine. So let's get right on it. Hopefully we can I'm so close to them, rosy cheeked from sitting too close to the fire. Anyways, and I might be moving stuff around. I've actually got a slightly different situation in this room, and I believe I could actually show you that, but I might need to move some of my stuff around. So here's what my situation looks like now. I had to move this over here. I have a friend that I'm hoping can come and play piano and jam. Got my mixing board over there at the moment. Guitars and bass, amp, and right now the synths live over here, and I've just got more space to move around, and I'm hoping to actually use some of this. Yeah, and we'll see how that goes. That doesn't have anything to do with the audio coding that I'm doing. It's just more stuff that I've done recently. I can probably do a little bit more on Thursday from what I'm talking about now, but I'd like to get some of this started. And I'd also like to be lined up on the audio rate. Well, I'm actually looking into doing something with the filter today. I'm also looking to adjust where this is sitting today. How's that? Any better? No, actually, I think that was worse. I can't have it like this. Let me move it the opposite direction. There, how's that? Oh yeah, that's better. I had to do this moving of the camera thing because what was happening was the stream kept dying because it didn't think I had any, it thought that nothing was moving because I was looking at code and the camera feed in the corner wasn't big enough, so I've had to make that bigger. Alrighty, absolutely. Let's show you the filter. I'm going to have to take a moment and this little adapter and move my optical output over to the computer that you see. So give me a second, I'll do that too. It's always something. But then I get to show you the filter. It's not out yet, but it's the one I'll be using. Okay, and I don't know whether I'm going to have to take breaks seeing as I'm getting started so late, but I'm going to set up the playback on the streaming computer so that I can put audio on there. So, let's see. What's good? I know, I'll just take a random guitar sound and we'll use that. So I made this recently. We are not going to go clip only today. I've actually got clip only 3 done. It's not completely and totally ready, but it's pretty close. Yeah, so here's the filter that we'd be talking about doing stuff with. And you can make it be very steep indeed. Or not. So the thing I'm thinking about is taking this filter and jumping in. I did not take time to research this. I should have. I should have took time to research this. You're not hearing computer sound, you're hearing bleed from the speakers. And it wasn't very loud, so there's that. Let's see where we're at. So I'm going to run. This is what we were doing, which is a state variable filter. And that's my personal variation on it. But also what we're doing is I got to bring a couple of my previous things together and combine them. And this is why I'm kicking myself. Well, I can't kick myself too hard because I did that Godot meeting. And that started an hour later than I expected. So that really got in the way of my whole damn day. But I was going to do some listening to Dilla. Because today is the time for making, and we'll make it be an end-to-end, so that it can be mono or quad or whatever you want, at least for the audio unit version, which is we're doing that first. We're going to try to do this. So that means I need to open a bunch of other projects now. In particular, we're going to base it off of Dynamics 3 Mono. Oh, I also need to remember to do the version file. Here's the version file. Donu for donut. Also could be don't, but I'm going to have it be Donu. If it was don't, then Donu would be the next one in the... Where are we at? Here. So we're going to start with this, but then it's going to become bigger as we go. And I don't know if I need to include a gate. I'm not sure that's necessarily what I want, but we'll see. One thing at a time, I guess. I'm never very good at doing one thing at a time, but this is a situation where I'm probably going to want to, at least for a moment, do one thing at a time. So I need to build this so it matches the previous one. Then I can move on from there. And here's... We'll start with that. I'm going to try to duplicate this and get it working. Then we bring in the filter, and then we hook the filter up to the compression ratio. Ratio is not actually the right word. Oh well, no matter. We'll do what we can. So we're leaving this stuff alone for now. We need to take this space and instantiate these things. And then in this space, we can start by just straight up taking everything here. So let's see, A to D that uses. There we are. And then we leave the rest of that stuff alone, and the rest of this goes in here. After this bit. And before that. And if we build that, it doesn't build the first time around, but build it twice and it should work. See, this particular system doesn't like building for the first time because it has not built its own dependencies yet. But when I hit build the first time, then it builds the dependencies, and then it's able to build, okay, let's test that assumption. Boop, warnings don't count. We're just not using those sliders. That part's fine. So before even listening, it's time to bring in some of the other stuff I was going to use. Namely, we'll open and go to the last thing I made. Among the last things I made. This, we've got additional controls. And we can add them here for the moment. Come on. Okay, so that should work. That takes us down to G, so we'll make some spaces in there so we know what we're doing. And then I copy this bit and include this bit too. Scooch up here. Do the same thing as before. These are all mono bills, so that part should be about the same. We may or may not be keeping all of this there. After all, this is a frequency smoothing, a control smoothing thing, which if we are automating it by the cutoff frequency, then that's no longer as relevant. But that's a whole other story. Then this shows up here. Oops. No harm done, but oops. That was meant to be that. Then D, E, F, G. And then we can get rid of these. I am trying valiantly to get something happening at the end of this. Like, since I had to start so late, I'm like, gotta race forwards and get all of this stuff done. Happily, this bit is much simpler. It's not perfectly simple, but it's simpler. But we do have to change that part like this. And I think that's about it. Build again. This is the original Litoro filter code. It's a state variable filter where you can do a high pass, you can do a low pass, you can do whatever. I can look back at that anytime I want. We're not worried about that right now. If I build this, and here it is, and here, what we have is not, I'd better go and look up something else. And not that. I'd better look up something else like my sounds folder and go and find something which will respond to compression like a drum kit or something. Here's one. And then if we open up, got to go in search of it, donut. What we see is this is a stack of two plugins that don't interact with each other yet. So there's the compressor. And we have this filter on after the compressor. And we have a output volume. But the idea behind Donut, and again, I need to have done, and I did not do the research I needed to do in terms of listening to the Dilla album, which I'm not willing to do on stream. But we'll get back to this on Thursday, so I'll have had time to do that. To hear what it did. We have the ability to do this, or similarly weird things this way. But what we're not doing is moving the cutoff. And that's the thing, is it's meant to move the cutoff along with the compression. So the thing to do there is start adding some more sliders, and we can reshuffle these later. But the first order of business is get this to be reactive. Get it to start doing something. And we've even got controls we can use. HIJ, etc. These are all available for use. So one thing we can do, we know we've got this. There is our filter. So this is the part that we're manipulating. And I'm just kind of staring at it because what I'm thinking about is, do I want to simply make this run on the basis of the compression and not have it be slider accessible? Or indeed have the slider start taking over? Notably, I can do this. Probably don't need to worry about that. I'm probably going to take that away. Hey, decay, no. That is not what we're doing today. We're doing this right at the moment. And trying to pass out and that should be very doable because we're calculating this out. We're trying to pass this out and applying it to the filter sweep. We won't need to de-zipper it, but we will need to have it be relative to CBA. And then we get to play with that a little bit further. This is now replaced. So everywhere it says freak here, we can bring in something else. And to do this, we're going to bust it loose into separate calculations because we're doing this thing. We're sticking with the Airwindows version of the filter because it sounds better. I think we're sticking with not adjusting the resonant peak, although that could be done too. But most importantly, we need to manipulate this in various ways. So, God, excuse me. Everywhere it says freak, I've got to put something else in here. Let's just try using it direct. There's still also the capacity for figuring out how to do the algorithm version of this so that we don't have to do the multiple interpolations version of it. And I know that's possible, and I doubt very much I'm going to be able to figure it out today. I don't feel my head's there. But I feel like where my head is at is here. Ooh, I don't want that. In fact, I want this because I need to start bringing in CBA times one of my other sliders. I think the first one I have available is G. There. And I can also get a little bit frisky here. No, not G. It's going to be H, not G. Well, I needed to change that anyway, so it's fine. We're going to actually have that be plus rather than minus. And then H. And then we need to, so there's a variety of problems here that are going to happen. Frequency hits a wall here that you don't get to make it larger than a certain amount or it breaks. So what we're going to do is have it be able to break until it gets fixed. So that's just going to happen. This gets made bipolar. It goes from 0 to 1. Now it goes from 0 to 2. And now it goes from -1 to 1. So H is going to be needing to sit at 0.5 if nothing happens. This should do something. Besides break, but it will also break. But it doesn't necessarily have to break immediately. So here's our drums again. Here's our donut again. This needs to sit in the middle to be not doing anything. So now this is applying that amplitude-wise. Whoop. It broke, but it didn't break in a way that I didn't expect. Now, this is supposed to do something, but maybe it is not. I gotta watch out that I don't blow my speakers with this. Didn't like that one bit. Okay, how about... Yeah, so far this is not working at all. But that's because I only just put it together and I'm just starting to get it under control. So the first order of business is to throw in some limitations on this so that it doesn't just explode. I'm pretty sure I can work out what the requirements are. what we're looking at is frequency is 0 to 1, the power of overall scales. So that's basically just handling sample rates. Overall scale plus 1. That's just changing the taper of it, is all that's doing. And then times 1.225 gives me the absolute maximum that can go. That tells me that that's my maximum value. That's as high as it can go without blowing up and being horrible. And you know what else? That minimum value is going to be 0. And reso minimum value doesn't actually get to be 0 because that's just a tone. But we do get to also have this be manipulated with as well. What we don't have is it acting like a Dilla record. Because it's not. It's not acting like a Dilla record. It's acting like a giant mess. Because I haven't got this stuff dialed in yet. So, one thing that I might consider is, see, here's all my code. Here's where we apply this. CBA can be crossfaded between this, and I could also lose the gate. I don't know if I need the gate for this. Pretty sure some of this Bez threshold stuff is gate related. Because you see, the thing I'm looking to do is be able to have this compressor not actually affect volume. Right now, it is affecting volume, but it isn't doing a thing to the filter. That's not true. It is doing a thing to the filter behavior, but not in a way that's useful. Because what it's doing is it's applying volume alteration in the compression, and then it's writing the filter behavior on the back of that, meaning that if I have it doing a low frequency sound, it's also a quiet sound. But the low frequency sound is already quieter because it's taking away high frequencies. So basically I'm simply not hearing it if I'm rolling it off enough. And that's not correct. So let's go and take the gate away. How about? Dynamics amount, that's going to be equals, and here we do, now we're still using that control, but now it's not being applied to a gate. That also means anything gate oriented in here is going to crash, so I have to fix that. Let's also make this go away. Then I believe we can also make that go away. And I guess we'll find out whether anything else needs to go away. Where's the thresh anyway? There it is. Okay. In theory, that'll work. Let us now also this. And then everywhere that appears, it gets replaced with this freak moving. Excuse me. We will also be able to do stuff with the resonances as well, but right now, that's not as much of a concern. But here is where we restrict its behavior. And also here, let's see. So dyne amount is something we've just declared in here. Hopefully this doesn't all blow up and crash. We'll see. Doing my level best with it. Here's where we apply this. And we should be able to just add that. So let's see if we can just add that. That wasn't the right thing. See, if the amplitude is always 1 minus whatever this is, it's going to go down to maximum compression. But then as we alter dyne amount, that limits the extremity that it can get to. And then, of course, the minimum, it's going to be that which will go all the way down to 0, meaning that it will not compress if you've turned the dyne amount all the way down. And now we need to deal with this. Actually, now we need to deal with this. So it's got to be the maximum of this or 0. And then it's got to be the minimum of that or, you'd think I was going to say 1, but no. Here's how big it can get. So it's going to be this. And that might not be enough to keep us safe, but it might. And of course I don't use that multiplier because we're not multiplying anything. So min of the effect or 1.225, it doesn't get to go any louder than that. Or max of that and 0 doesn't get to go any less than that. There is a fair question of, should you declare a variable just for doing this with it? Or should you just do this sequence of operations twice? Because it might be cheaper than declaring a whole other variable just to do that. But I don't have to care about that right now. What I have to care about is, was I able to make this not crash now? And only one way to find out, I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit just because I know I'm looking at the scenario of, let's make it blow up. So let's see if we made it blow up. I'm going to be rough with it. So gate is actually not gate. Gate is now the amount of dynamics that we added. So it becomes quieter, but we have a gain adjustment in there. So when I turn this back off, it's not actually going to go to the regular volume, it's going to go louder. Now we're boosting. But what we don't know is whether or not we're able to make the filter sweep. But we can find out. Well, this didn't make anything break. We're not crashing anymore. If we crank up Reso, we get to hear what the frequency's doing. So I can put the volume up a hair. So that's what that frequency's doing. And if we do this, we are getting full dynamic alteration. So it's working as the original compressor. So we can hear what that filter's doing. And then if we start taking the dynamics out, we've got sort of boost going on. Again, adding Reso is letting us hear what that frequency is doing. Oh, and output still operates as a normal output. Gate is what's able to turn it over to purely operating as a compressor again. So we're going to leave gate pretty cranked up. Now what I do wonder is whether I can make it move better. So now we got a bunch of distortion. Don't want that. Might want to put a clip on the outside of this. So this is getting on towards the basic idea of what this donut plugin could be. Again, I have to go and listen to Dilla. I have to go and listen to what was done because I was being asked for a very specific thing. I guess the nice part of it is I was being asked for a thing that Dilla was choosing to do rather than being asked for a object or software plugin that somebody else had made. Because I don't like that very much. But I like this fairly well. What I don't like is that it is not moving right. That's kind of cool. Kind of, maybe. So if we set it for full dynamics, this happens. Here's what our frequency does. Start pulling it back, you start getting really high output again. But we have an output trim. So we might start getting in the zone of being able to do things here. Again, my intention is never to duplicate like the particular piece of software that Dilla was using. Instead, I'm trying to do a distinct thing which is able to do some of those effects. Well, among other things, look at this. I'm on, oh, you can't see it because my head's in the way. Well, I can make that go away. Look at that. Mac OS X 1068. On a 2.53 gigahertz Intel Core i5 with 8 gigs of RAM. Good luck running AI and 8 gigs of RAM, I tell you. Also, AI cannot do these things I'm doing. So I'm just going to have to go on doing them. Seems fun. Will I maybe need to go even slower, I wonder? I think we need to move beyond just this one drum thing. I think I need to move on to something else, so I better open a different file and see what I can get to happen. Here's a different file. So here's what the compression would be doing with this. The compression would be squishing it until there's nothing there. You have to make attack go faster to be able to get anything out of that. If it's compression, this is what you get. However, if we use that same value, but turn this, what's labeled as gate, but it's not, we get this to happen. crank up Rezo and you start hearing it as a sort of little birdie tweet that we can manipulate like this. Indeed it is. Although we can do the opposite. So one possibility here is, seeing as maybe we don't want to be doing the gain matching, because we just have to turn the output down so far. Because the gain matching here is made to have it be able to do something useful when the full dynamics are enabled. This being the full dynamics. But that's not as useful now. In fact, I'm wondering whether it's ever useful for this plugin. Because I'm wondering whether it's ever useful for this plugin, let's jump in here with a little bit of boldness and see if we can get it to do something. I'm still going to have to go and check out what Dolo is doing. I do know that. I know I have to do that. But for now, I feel like some of these things can be altered. Plus, he says plus and then doesn't say anything more. Plus Rezo, that's what I meant. Plus Rezo. And if we want to be real freaky, no pun intended, we can put this smoothing stuff back. That's putting the smoothing stuff back. Now it's still going to do an interpolation. Because why not? I could see people playing with this. I could see people automating this. So this proves to be interesting. Maximum threshold is like 8. Well, so be it. I'm really questioning whether dynamics amount is the thing that's even useful. Makes you wonder. Makes me wonder anyhow. So if we didn't do anything like that, then we get to delete this. And we'll try maybe doing everything with filters. And we'll try not doing this pre-gain. So then that goes away too. Everything seems to still be working. And then got to uncomment this. And let's do the same thing with Reso. Now I'm pretty sure that needs to be no bigger than 0. Oh, HI. Now, am I using I for something? Not yet, but I'm about to. Oh, and this needs to be changed too. Similarly to the previous one. And then we're going to rearrange it. Another bipolar 1. And then we're actually going to use it here. And then let's make this one tap out at 1. Unless, do we have other restrictions? Ooh, okay, we do have other restrictions. Yeah, tapping out at 1 seems right, but we can't have it go this small. That's our limit there. M is for moving. Then that is just a little bit more. But here's where we apply the frequencies and the resonances. Airwindows for moving. Okay. Well, that's talking a good game, but what did it do? I think what I'm going to be doing is having it set up with a base frequency and a base resonance. And then you get to use the other controls to tie that to the compression. And the compression doesn't actually compress anymore because it's a donut. Let's see what we got now. Soon it will be time to rearrange things. Okay. This now doesn't do anything, so I can take that away. We no longer have dynamics, we have filtration. So here's what we've got. Here's filtration. Here's resonance. If you use H to make the filtration go up or down, now it's going up or down. Or, here's resonance. If you make resonance go up or down, so that's making the resonance go down. So I need to invert this. Then you make it go up. And all of our settings are safe. No matter what you do, it doesn't freak out or blow up. So, let's call these controls base frequency, move frequency, base res, and move res. Let's do that. Threshold. Doesn't seem to be doing all that much, honestly. That's a little weird. I don't understand that part. Probably because we're doing attack and release the way we are. I'm not sure Threshold's doing anything anymore. That's interesting. Albert still does something. I'm not sure Threshold does anything anymore. That had to do with the amplitude. We got gate and we got threshold. But you know, this stuff is just cranking along anyway. I don't believe threshold does a damn thing anymore. I'm not hearing it do anything anymore. Well, that simplifies stuff to some extent. Okay. Honestly, I feel like if I look into this, I'll find that this no longer connects to anything in there. Doesn't do a thing. Right on. Okay. I hesitate to say that this is the correct thing, but this is a thing. Ooh, we're getting DC stuck in there. Well, if we do that, does threshold do anything here? I don't think so. I think the scaling of all this has to be very different, but that's fine. Because the way this works all this attack stuff just makes it a tangled mess. Interesting stuff only lives over here. Alrighty then. Alrighty then. As fun as that is, got a couple of changes to make. That'd probably work. The idea being if you increase this knob, it makes the resonance go higher typically. So one of the challenges there is the fact that the way this crazy, weird modulating thing is going, there's two separate ways you can get it to kick in. You can get it to kick in by slowing attack and having fast release, or you can get it to kick in by speeding attack and having slow release. And these all have their own little characteristics. So it's a matter of how can I sit this down with various knobs on it and have it sort of do what you want by fiddling with the knobs in an appropriate way? Which is a fair question. Like, I don't want you to have to read a manual on this. You should be able to just start playing with it. Ooh, sure enough. Yeah. Unused variable. Fancy that. Meaning that can be commented straight out. And amusingly, that gives me places to put these other things. So give me a second. I'm going to throw a log in the fire, go and take a bit of pit stop. Having drunk all the coffee I should drink today. And I'm going to put on some amusing, not that. I'm going to put on some amusing sounds out of Stream Audio. Shouldn't take me long. I will be right back. Alrighty, let's jump back in. Here's donut H. We already know we don't need a gate. That is going to be fine. Let's relocate everything. Ooh, and let's stack these up differently. Let's arrange them like that. And then let's see, output, that is in fact 1. So the idea there is you set what the situation is, and then these ones move off of 0.5. Let's see, where's space frequency? C. We could have that be 1. And then move starts at 0.5, and then we could have res start out at 0. And that could be 0.5. That might work. Let's see. And here's where I change all of those things. So let's get rid of all the stuff that's actually being deleted. Move on from there. G. Why is out B divided by square root res of B? Because that's the way my filter works. Okay. That's good enough, I guess. So attack, that's going to be A. That's going to be B. Move that there. Move this here. Here's where we apply it. So that seems legit. So we got to rename it. Or at least if it lets me, please let me. Thank you. And you let me change it too. Thank you. And that needs to move to be not here. Lovely. Now we just got to set them to the places they need to be set. Earnest heartfelt apologies for how nonsensical I'm making this seem. But it should work if I can get it to work. So C, then D is move frequency. Here we go. Here's D. Then E is base res, so that seems legit. And then F is move reso. Alrighty then. In theory, this will work. However, I was going to make these scale differently. So I needed to keep making them go to higher settings. That is actually making them go to lower settings because it's 1 minus whatever the thing is. So if we had it cranked up to 1, it would be 1 minus 1. That's next to 0. If we were nearly at 1 and wanted it to go farther than that, maybe we're looking at just having it be an even higher power factor. Might as well find out. We'll try it and find out. We can also exaggerate this a bit. Seeing as we were making it go to extreme values and all, that seems legit. Then we don't need that. And we don't need this. And we don't need this. And here's how this stuff works. Let's put the dezippering up top. I often do that. I don't feel I need to have this right here. We can put this in up top because this is how we get some of these variables. And I often make the dezippering stuff sit up top. And since it's no longer sitting down here, we get to do this. So these are all being created out of the previous ones. I still don't have a algorithmic version of this. I just have the crossfade version of it. And I don't like that, but there's nothing much I can do about it now. See, this is the crossfade version that I don't want. But I don't have that solved right at the moment, so and with that, maybe we're getting to be about all set. So I guess we try it and see. I guess we try it and see. Oh, something went wrong. Oh, that's all. Well, that's easily fixed. Ta-da! So the thing that boggles my mind a little bit is I'm trying to do this and I don't actually get to listen to Dilla to dial it in. But maybe that's okay. I'm not trying to clone things. I'm trying to make tools that do kind of radical things. So supposing we start out with those being, actually we can just straight up set it to default. Alrighty. So here's a base frequency. Here's base resonance. If we're making resonance increase, we can do this. Make resonance decrease and nothing happens because it's already maxed. So that's unpleasant, but you can do this. So at this point, are we starting to get into somewhere that's useful? Got our output volume. So we are seemingly able to get stuck on DC. That's not the greatest of great. Maybe we need to have the frequency not go as far as that. So let's save this just like that. Go in here and find what we can change that'll maybe make it not get stuck on a DC voltage. Because that's the output DC voltage, and that's not necessarily good for people's basebands. Let's maybe not have it be that. Frequency is going to be what matters here. So that's now our minimum frequency. What do we got? So I made that be quite low. I'm looking to have it seemingly be able to do the same thing, but rather than get stuck like that, it needs to be like a little motion in the subsonics when it's doing its being bad thing. So let's see what we got. Back into this. Back into this. It'll remember the same settings I had it on. Unfortunately, you can't see a damn bit of this, can you? That sucks. But it can be fixed. If I do this, now you can see what it's doing. So when it freezes like that, bad things are happening. In fact, I can even demonstrate. Let's apply it and then quickly undo it. So when it gets stuck like that, this is what's happening. That's not helpful to the speakers. It's not helpful to your bass bins. If it gets stuck sitting on a subsonic, like here, this is not what your bass bin likes, to have it be stuck on full voltage for multiple seconds. So we're not going to do that. No, no, no. We're going to undo it, and we're going to change that up again. Ten times, 100 times. That's all I've changed. And we had it set up in such a way where it was choking itself off. Mind you, I could also put on a amplitude thing for that. We could just gate. I didn't have a gate happening, but that is a situation where I could just gate. Let's see whether it's unpleasant now or whether it's better. So that's it being able to do stuff, but it certainly looks like the amplitude is going down rather than getting stuck. Well, let's see what we've got now that it's doing this. Donut for dinner indeed. I'm just misusing it to see whether I do things that are harmful or whether it's doing things that aren't necessarily harmful. Let's see what we got. Okay. That's where the subs go. Also, we have a funny sort of behavior here. Look at those funny little nudges. I'm not really sure what that's about. I feel like that's good enough for what low frequency interference should look like. So seeing as it can do that, let's undo that. Now let's dial with it until it's doing an extreme bassy thing and see what that acts like. Because if we set move frequency up that far, we're able to choke it off completely. Ooh, well, we could have the resonances as low as they can go. Bass frequency just high enough to kick in. This is making the kind of sweeping, bassy, whoomphing noise that I was thinking was going to be what was desired. Good, I'm glad that the side pass thing worked out for you. Let's apply this and see what it did. Yeah, that's making whumps, all right. What is that? How fast is this? Okay, that's a giant thump. But all the same, I think we can get away with it. And this is a testament to how well the state variable filter works on this. Because that's definitely, like, if this was a note, that's super duper subsonic, but it's still able to kick in a sort of bassy whump that is only subs and isn't anything else. So if you're cutting everything out with this entirely, that is one warning sign. However, undo. Redo. Move res, I think, can sit by itself, not worried. Or, what if we increase the resonance as it drops? Okay. That's kind of cool. It doesn't sound like a dull track, but it's the sort of thing that you could throw into something like that. And one of the things that I like about plugins is that it is able to cover a pretty wide range. It is not a simple and easily defined swoopy noise. So let's apply this. Okay, everything ended up being kind of quiet. Oh, interesting. We got some low frequency noises. We got all kinds of funny noises. Weird how these keep trying to do slightly different things as they hit, but I guess that stands to reason, doesn't it? I still feel like that frequency is too low. I'm a little dissatisfied with that part. Like, this is just throwing subs around. Here's this as defined as a note, except for I better pull it back to here. But this isn't a note. That's like 8 hertz. Cool and all, but I'm not very satisfied with it. Eight hertz is too high. Low, not high. Let's get out of here again. And let's see what maybe we can make this do. So if we made that go to 2.5, maybe that raises the maximum low pitch up to subsonic, but not DC values? Maybe. We could also restrict the resonance of it a little bit too. So let's see where we get with that. Now what do we got? I honestly feel like the person who has been canvassing me for donut for months and months should be here, but I guess it becomes a surprise. I guess it's like, hey, I banged this out in a single stream. We're done. Enjoy. After all, if it's horribly wrong and they go, no, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted at all. I can't make it do what I need. I could always do a donuts too, if they're able to articulate where I failed. Which is a fair question. Where did I fail? Did I fail? Did I build the new version and copy it over? Well, this time I did. So back to my test sound. Now it does this. Move res is cutting back the maximum volume. Maybe I don't want that. There. So speeding up the release is going to make it swell up faster. Does look like I still have a slow enough release on tap. Let's see what it has. Okay, we're smushing down to near silence. That's better than not. And here's our new low frequency jolts. Honestly, I feel like I could exaggerate those by cranking in more of the resonance. So let's undo that and go back into the resonance zone. And this time, we increase resonance. And I've got this at extreme settings. So that's right at the point where it's canceling out, where it is going silent. I've got a lot of extra resonance pushed when I'm going down that low. Let's see if it does anything. Kinda. That's apparently our new minimum. Or maximum? It's going to be maximum or minimum, I'm not sure which. Sounds like. So what's that note then? Is it a note? Let's find out if it's a note. That seems to me to be a subsonic note. It's pretty consistent, but it's not registering, it's just burning energy. So maybe what I need to do is set this up so its lowest note when we do this nonsense of making this happen is a audio note rather than just a subsonic rumble. That would involve doing this with it. And you know what? We can have the max reso continue to be a large value. And let's see what we've got now. The idea here is I should be able to make this so that my subwoofers go crazy when I'm doing that kind of stuff. Rather than make it go silent but actually be burning energy, I should be able to set it up, and I'm going to need to test it at multiple sample rates. I should be able to set it up so it's doing something actually useful. Useful is a subjective term. But I know what I mean when I say it. Okay. That sounds like a frequency down there. What happens if we take move res down? All right, what's that frequency? Name that frequency. One thing about it, it's quieter than everything else. And we can see it on the waveforms in here. What I don't know is whether I've got a frequency I can measure. Do I have a place where it shows up real obvious? How about here? Yep, that's subwoofer grade. So I don't know what note that is, but I hear it. I could probably work out what note it is by counting frequencies, but instead I'm going to just hear it. Acknowledge that that is clearly, ooh, I could even. So here's what it sounds like when it is loud. Subwoofer. Then we undo this and change it to 96K and see if we get the same note. Because I tell you, I kind of doubt. But there's one way to find out. Does this need to be adjusted by get sample rate? One way to find out. Okay. Here's the new hotness. I think I recognize that this is the frequency of which we speak. So, loop this little section that looks to be the same frequency. Normalize it. And yeah, that needs to be adjusted. That does not get to be, that's no bueno. We lost our whole bottom octave because we multiplied it by a little over 2 or more, or whatever it is we were doing, it went wrong. So frequency is going to be like this. Divided by overall scale. And we can also drop it down just a hair. There, and if we do that, it should be able to hit the same subs notes. But one way to find out. One way to find out. Firstly, we see whether we're still going into the subs properly. Should be, but I mean, it's anybody's guess. Yep. That's a subs note. So if we apply that, everything gets very quiet, but we can see the note. Here it is right here. That's a subby note. So that seems a chip. Now, we quick see whether we get a similar behavior or whether something else has gone wrong. In theory, this should be producing the same effect. Well, one downside is that I'm hearing high frequency artifacts more because it's actually not sweeping quite the same way. But artifacts aside, got the same note, fix the thing. So now to play with it a little bit more freely. We can have the resonance. So that's a way to get some low frequency beef. Although, no, amplitude seems to be reasonably okay. I'm figuring out whether I need to add boost or something. Yeah, GIP, I can only do that if I'm coding on the streaming machine. So the answer to that is I can't. I can't do that for you right now. Ooh, we got loud. Why? Resonance? Yeah, resonance. Yeah, so one way to get more gain out of it is to do the resonant. If I hit the subwoofers hard enough, it does come through the microphone. For what that's worth, which may not be all that much. And what else can we do? Little envelope follower behavior. The sound that's being played out of this is from that machine. And it's stressing out the machine too, by the way, but you do what you can. Yeah, it's pretty crunchy. Let's try something very different. Now it's a slow attack. Okay, let's take that from the top again. I get to have a bunch of different Macs and I need them. Like, in order for me to do what I do, I've got the development one that you're hearing from right now. There's the one that has to be able to edit videos and stream on, which is the one that's being streamed from right now. If I switch over to this is the machine I'm streaming from. This is what I'm doing coding on. And then there's a laptop for if I am on the road. It's another Apple Silicon one. And that's the one that I have to demo plugins on when I'm making videos for the weekend. So essentially what ends up happening is I have to take the plugins off of this one, bring them over to the streaming one, and, well, actually I have to make VSTs out of them and then make Linux VSTs out of them. So we do that, bring it over to the streaming one, which is where I distribute software from, and then build Apple Silicon versions of the plugins and copy those onto the laptop in order to demo them in Reaper to make a video each weekend in order to be able to, and the headphones that I wear are the ones that are getting plugged into that one. And I mean, back in the day I had even more. This is one of the older ones I've got, this dev laptop. But while I sort of developed and grew, in like 2007, and then it's 2010, and then it's 2012, and so on and so forth, there were a series of other ones as well. One of the things that ended up happening there was a time when I got together all the Macs that I possibly could over the years, because I'd saved them all, and I sent them all into Apple to be recycled. And the money that I got from that paid for the streaming one. So I used to have more. And I also have an antique one that used to be my mom's back when she was alive. And it's a desktop, but it's about the same age as this one. So that's a backup, although I should probably run it periodically to make sure it works. That's a backup for me being able to do the direct development on. Failing that, I could get another copy of this laptop, because this laptop is worn out, I tell you. But yeah, we've got this. I think I like the way this filter goes. And those folks were right about the state variable. Does seem good. So yeah, you can do this. So cranking up the res like that shows you where the filters are at. So if we start over, we've centered all of the controls and we've centered all of the filters. And so it acts like this. And it does seem to be following its instructions as far as how it's supposed to act. Like if it's all attack and release is really slow, it sweeps up and then back down. Or you can make it do this, and that might be closer to what the Dilla thing is. Probably something like this. And you can use the resonance to dial in where those notes are. So it shows you what you're doing, you don't have to just guess. I'm glad the Slew 4 is working out for you. That is a semi-unexpected delight because people seem to really get something out of it. I think this is closer to what the Dilla thing was. It swoops down on attack. I think that might be just about it. I'm not sure, but I feel like with a little care and attention, people would be able to get whatever their desired Dilla filter compressy sweep sound was. And for that reason, I feel like maybe that is in the zone. Feel like maybe that'll work. It's a pity I don't have the requester. Oh well. Hopefully I didn't screw it up completely. That's always the challenge if you're doing something because somebody specifically asked for it. You're kind of up against it as far as if the thing that you did wasn't what they imagined, then they get to go, no! Shame on you, you did it wrong. At which point I would kind of have to go, oops, okay, well, enjoy. Here, you have a thing for free. G. Because we have like 7 controls. 7 controls? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 7 controls. Yeah, excuse me. Long day. Long but probably useful day. You just got to remember you set your frequency and resonance, and then whatever that is, you use move frequency and move resonance to alter it from that point. Positive being high and lower than 0.5 being make it become lower. So I think that's accessible. It's a little weird that I don't have a threshold control anymore, but there you have it. Now we got to remove a bunch of things. So let's first clean the build, at which point it'll probably let me delete these things better. Mm-hmm. In theory, you could make one giant thing with all of this stuff. Also, I bet some of this can be const, can't it? If it can, that'll run a little better, potentially. If I remember to do this, then the plugin might run more efficiently, if I've got that right. Otherwise, maybe I don't have it right. Who knows? But also, that looks a little bit weird, but probably not. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. Do you think it's fine? I hope it's fine, because I'm getting ready to sort of finish it up. We'll see. I also may say I like the fact that there's this sort of organic quality from it not just being sort of a raw trigger. Instead, it's running off of the internal calculations of a Bezier filter. And that means it goes a little more organic in a way that hopefully is going to respond to things more. And if I'm lucky, that'll be good. We'll find out. I love how these are like the same. They do need to be separate things, but they look the same. Where are we doing anything with Bestmax? Okay, that's making me frustrated. This seems to work, but why am I looking at it and getting confused? Oh, now I have to know. What the hell? Have I stripped this down too much so that it no longer does anything? Look, it all fits in here. But something's wrong. Oh, this is frustrating. Well, let's run it again. We stripped everything, apparently. There you go. So what the hell's going on? Well, that was unhelpful. Try that again. What the hell's going on that I can't see how this works? I don't like that part. I don't like that part. I want to know what's happening. And there's one quick way to find out. So release works as expected. That's the one that I saw was basically being fine. Oh God. Didn't expect that. That was weird. What's happening there? Okay. Well, that was kind of painful and scary, but all the same. So release acts as expected. As it should. Attack is supposed to do a certain thing, but instead it seems to make everything explode. Let's find if it does it again. No, this time it didn't, but that was something. So this is me trying to figure out whether attack is disconnected. How is it doing anything? It's absolutely working the way it's supposed to, but how is it doing anything? That's its fastest. That's its slowest. Yeah, this absolutely works. How? How does this work? I'm looking at code where it says BesMax equals Fmax BesMax control. And then we don't do anything with it. Is it up here? Okay, so BezRes, this. Slow res, this. Slow res is the release. Those are both getting affected by essentially themselves. Nothing is, slow res isn't taking BezRes for any argument. Bleh, what the actual hell? Okay, I'm happy that it works, but what? And we're going off of CBA for all of this. Oh, hang on. Hang on a second. I think control's what we're feeding in here. But we're not doing anything with it there. Oh, and it's absolute input sample. Okay. Wait, no, hang on, slow up. So BezMax is persistent, BezMin is also persistent. That stands to reason. How is this working? I don't see where it does what it does. Those are being set to 0. Fine, fine. It's magic. I guess we're just going to have to throw our hands up and go, how does that do anything? I don't know. It's magic. I don't see where... Okay, so Mac... I'm still trying to figure this stupid thing out. So cycle plus equals BezRes. BezRes is a factor of the first control. We're setting it back to 0 here. Might be able to make this run a little more efficiently, if nothing else. So there's the bit where I do not see how that does anything. Oh, I better know why. Oh, I better know why. I better know what that is. I'm sure I know what that is. So here's the deal. That doesn't have to do with the attack speed. That has to do with the gate. So the attack speed's running perfectly fine without it. I am so sure that is the case that I'm going to delete all of this and go with only BezMin, because that's what runs the release time. And we're now going to see whether that still works. Save, close. Save build. Build succeeded. That's cute. That wasn't part of the attack speed at all, was it? I think it was not. One way to find out, though, if this is now completely broken, I have to put all that back from memory. But I kind of suspect it's not. Here we go. Release. Attack. So if you have a super fast release, this is the original design of the Bezier compressor. It's just chasing the value. And you can use it to fuzz stuff up or whatever. If you don't touch the release but you slow down the attack, it starts chasing more slowly. And it starts acting more like some kind of weird flutter or something. And we can hear what it does by cranking up resonance. And move frequency is going to set how high up it goes. And then really slow attack, we've got room enough to make it go really, really fast. Or at least really aggressively. So it can chase really sedately. It's only barely kicking in. So you can have your filter sweep up very gradually and sort of slowly track how loud everything is. Attack increases in speed, and we start returning to basically raw Bezier compressor. But wait, there's more because we have release. And release means it'll snap up to the fastest trigger, but it's always still a Bezier compressor, so it'll snap up to that trigger, but it's not actually snapping up in a way that's going to give you aliasing, because there's always a limit. And then it'll release at the speed of release, obviously. So this is falling down this slow. And the faster the release, the quicker it can zip back up again, because you start zooming over to where the attack speed lives. Until you got just a grungy noise. So now that's a messy sound you can add. And the bass frequency is still zipper smoothed. So we can do a fade from high res down to grunged out, broken tape sounding. And that's as low as we can go. Okay, that's fun. We made the bass go kind of gnarly. That ought to work. Can do that. That's fun. Let's throw some regular drums on. The poor computer is a little bit tired. I mean, so am I, so what the hey. I got 10 minutes before I get to thaw out food for tacos, and then I'll get to go and have tacos. Okay. Seems like fun. We don't get to boost all that much here, but it seems to be working. It's for fun. Seeing as it doesn't do anything dynamics-wise anymore, it doesn't count as a compressor. Yeah, it's hot here as well, although I did end up running the fire. Didn't need it all that much today, actually. So we can do this. And then let's see what else. Then invert it. So having the resonance increase here, that's neat. So that's the fastest possible attack, but the attack is squishing down the filter rather than up. And I got the filter ramping up as it drops down, or is forced down. But I can set move res back to the middle for less of an exaggerated effect that way. So that's a little less aggressive. So we got a real underwater sound going on here. And a very different kind of sound here. Little spike on the front there. Back to the beat. Yeah, we don't actually get to make this stuff much louder than the bass. In fact, it's coming out quieter. Might be okay. I would like to try this on something a little more synthetic, and I don't know if I have got anything like that kicking around. But to be perfectly honest, it's time for me to go and get my taco stuff ready. Wonder what I've got kicking around. Well, I've got electronic beats here. Taking its own sweet time to load, but I do have them. No. Here we go. Okay, that's the noise. Now, donuts on a sort of techno mix. So it's starting as this. But we make this out of it. Let me set that up to go, and I'm going to go and defrost my taco stuff now. But I'll be right back. I'm just going to get this playing. already. That's cool. Then we got there. So the next thing to do would be to, I guess, get the VST version ready. Or at least start getting the VST version ready. I got about 50 minutes before stopping and having tacos. If I don't stop earlier, which is possible, I could just be like, I did work, it came out fine. Hopefully the thing is suitable for people and they enjoy it. We shall see. Let's build one more time. So one of my thoughts here, maybe I would like it to continue being independent left and right channels even in the VST version. Because this is currently, this will work on 5.1 if you want it. This will do that. And the options for the VST are to replicate this just as it is, which is what I'm considering, and to make it linked so that the frequency swoops always perfectly match. And I don't think I like that. I think I would like it to be dual mono. So that makes things fairly easy. It means that this gets to stay as it is. I have copied it in, right? Yes. Well, if I haven't, I'll do it over again, then I will. We'll open that up. Even if I did forget, let's scooch this over to here. Now it doesn't matter because I option drag that over there. This has not been one of my more coherent streams, I may say, but maybe it's because I was fairly on point for trying to help the Godot folks out, because I'm very interested in how that goes. They're developing more stuff, and it turns out the audio framework was sort of done by, I guess, Juan is who did that initially, early on. And so the Godot audio framework has been kind of sitting there ever since. People haven't really been doing that much with it. And we're only beginning to pick up where it left off. So first order of business is figure out where it left off. And this is why people can't show up and be like, do this and this and this and this and this and this and this, because it's too much. And they don't really have that close of a grasp on where the audio was, because it's just sitting there in working order for what it is. So let's see, this moves over to here. And then we'll make one of these. I have another filter related idea. I just don't know if I want to start it today. The other filter related idea is for a format filter. And to do that properly, I have to study how the format business works. Although granted, I could simply make a format filter and it would be like, okay, this is Delay Llama. It just goes, and does presets that way. But I'd rather have some controls where we can kind of chase the values of the controls, and there's fewer knobs, although perhaps like a joystickable would be nice. If you had two knobs and they covered your full range, that would be nice. Because that means I could, oh yeah, a bunch of people seem to like that. Yeah, that's the next thing, because now that I have these resonant filters working the way that I want, I can clearly also set them up to be like just take the bandpass output or whatever, and you can tighten that up until it is a ringing resonant filter. So all I'd have to do is set the frequencies to be exactly the correct format frequencies with the adjustments that one needs for that. Work out what the ranges are for going between like ooh and ah or whatever. And then have that be the frequencies that can go to completely resonant and run them in parallel and then add the results. If I do that, I will end up with a fundamental tone that's the combination of all the results. So it'll kind of average out, and that'll probably be a nice quality. But then you can give it as much of the simultaneous resonances as you want. And the balance of those resonances also plays into the format filter. I've got the same data from which Dalai Lama was made. Very likely. I'm pretty sure that I found the place where they got the information in the first place. So it's a matter of just like, okay, let me make another thing, but the other thing can have some of the same qualities. Should be fun. Speaking of fun, my neighbors appear to be riding around their little dirt bikes again. You're going to get very used to that sound over the summer. There's going to be a lot of that. Hopefully it won't get in the way of the weekend plug-in recordings. If it does, I can just start doing them really early. Well, remember, I'm not going to be calling it that. But I might call it something recognizable. It's just not going to be called that. Nor is it going to be made to duplicate that, nor is it going to have the picture. I mean, the picture is half the point, right? Come on. It's certainly not going to have the picture, and it's also not going to be designed to have exactly the same controls and layouts. Instead, I need to do something different with it. But turns out, format filters are doable. So that should be interesting. And it'll be using the same Dotoro thing I've been working with. In fact, it might literally use exactly this, because the resonant qualities of that seem very strikingly like you can get really resonant frequencies out of the thing. And it seems to gravitate towards very resonant qualities. So I feel that's a way better call than, say, trying to do it with biquads. Because you can do resonant frequencies with biquads too. You can do the bandpass biquad and stuff. I just don't think it's going to be as good. That incredibly simple Dotoro state variable filter seems to have a better quality in terms of it sounding kind of organic rather than like digitally accurate. It starts acting more like it's a physical device of some kind. And of course, formats are a physical device of some kind. It's a device that's built into your throat, or mouth, actually. Both. A little bit of both. Let's see, text wrangler. Multi-file search. Not that many files, just this one. This one collection of files. Bada boom. And bada bing. I have to do this every week. Each one of the new ones that comes out, it runs like this. Got to go through this process. I'm starting to wonder whether maybe it's like going for walks to get ideas or whatever. Like the fact that I have to do this over and over again, there may be benefits to sitting down with this sort of repetitive thing. remembering all the little details and getting them right. Be hard to say. Because the people that I know, like, I know a bunch of other people in plugin building land. And, you know, a whole bunch of them are playing with the AI things. To the point where people bet, are you not playing with the AI things? How can you not be playing with the AI things? Oops. There we go. And my answer is, my gut tells me that is a waste of time. Strangely enough. You wouldn't think it. If you listen to the wrong people, you'd be like, oh my God, it's the opposite of the waste of time. It's going to save my life. But I keep seeing these people who dive really deeply into this stuff, and I don't see them putting anything out. Whereas I cannot be accused of not putting anything out. The question is whether it's good. And in the last couple of weeks, it's been pretty good. And I don't see any reason why that should stop. So yeah, I guess, time will tell. We will see. So here we have this basically ready to go, except for that I need to do the porting of it. So here we go to here and open this up, and this is what I copy from. Or to some variation, some version of copy you want to call it. I'm porting it. It should be like a copy, but it's never going to be quite like a copy. I have to make the VST act as much as possible like the AU or better. Because in Reaper, I get to run it in double precision. I like that. So let's see. Here's my definition of terms. We have 7 controls. Here we define things. So we'll go up to G, and then we're going to define the stuff that lives here, but we're going to make it stereo rather than just mono. And that might involve me looking some stuff up. No harm in that. Because we're taking this from Dynamics, you see. And I do have a VST version of the Dynamics plugin. The filter part should be very easy and simple. That should be very straightforward. I'm going to take pains to make the Dynamics part. I also have another thing to do with Dynamics. I have the upward compression thing, which if I do the upward compression thing, then I'll be able to do the Airwindows aught, much like... it'll be quite funny to see whether Paul beats me to the aught, because everybody does an aught, right? I'm going to do one that's a little different, but all the same. Everybody's getting asked for an aught. Everybody is expected to do an aught. Paul's been asked to do an aught. And where Paul is at these days, he is basically playing with the AIs, especially basically Claude has become relatively effective these days. So people are interested in that. I don't think it lives where I live. I don't think I can get anything useful out of it, but all the same. Oh, hello. You're not dual mono at all. Interesting. Well, what have I got that is dual mono? Maybe we'll just roll our own. You know, when I said you're not dual mono at all, what that means is this. We've got 2 channels, but 1 control. I wish to have 2 channels and 2 controls. So we're going to have left-right versions of all of these things except for cycle and total. Or maybe even, no, it's going to be including cycle and total. Well, I know how to do that. here's what we're going to do. Here's our VST. Here's this bit. Here's where we do left and right. We'll just take the whole thing and edit it from there. That should work nicely. And then here's these. Give that a little space. Let's also play a little coy with these just for fun. Have them match the same format as the other one. There we go. So we're doing the two arrays. The two arrays are exactly the way they were. And we've got min left and right, and then low left and right, and then these A and B's are the zipper smoothing. And that ought to do that bit. So next we go to the CPP section, and we go back to the H section of this one, because now we have to set these to be the correct numbers. That would be the correct numbers. And here's where the instantiation from the C++ file for the other one lives. So we scroll up a little bit and it's right here. I don't think we're doing anything special with FPT L or R here, so that's probably going to be able to take care of itself. But we just put this in here and we now have two of them, so because we have two of them, we need to do this. And then, no, we need to do this here too. And here. So that needs to be set. And then this needs to be set. Hopefully this won't confuse me too badly. And lastly, we do one of these. And now everything is initialized. So now we gotta go back over to here. I'm going to assume that I can't remember from 1 minute to the next because I've been going at this all day. Well, I've been going at this half a day, but I started out with a Godot audio engine meeting, and I was doing my level best to be like cool and nice and helpful the entire time, so that took it out of me. Streaming isn't quite as hard as that. Streaming, it's like you people know that I'm nonsense anyhow, so it doesn't matter. G, 6G, 7H. Gonna make everything from 7H go. Or indeed H7 in this case. And this time it gets highlighted. The ones that I keep are in blue. So that's handy. And then I have to type in, although at least this time I don't have to make weird equations for things. 0 to 1 is okay for everything. Hey Chad, back with us?
blow up. Yeah, I don't actually have to fret about streaming to you folks, because you already know I don't make sense some of the time, and it's fine. And you like what I make. And when people come in to like flip over the apple cart and be jerks, it's fine. Whatever. What did Donut do? Haven't you heard about that? Don't you remember people asking me for this? Which is not to say that I've successfully done it, mind you, but I've done something, and I'm willing to call it Donut. You know, I ended up having to do updates to Seriously, because that was for Chad of Beauty Pill, who I really like, and he wanted a particular Hughes stereo widener thing, and my first attempt had good qualities to it, but didn't really succeed at that. And so I had to do some follow-ups to it, and ended up being able to sort of make it better and better. I still don't know whether it fulfilled its needs, but I tried. But yeah, people showing up for stream, it's basically like, oh, yeah, I'm derping around doing whatever, trying to make it good. And so that's not as challenging. Like, how can it be terribly stressful? And this is for some other people as well. Like if Sadara shows up or watches this in the future at some point, I encourage Sadara to do videos for Sign Machine that are like have face cam, and he's done a good job with it, and I think that's going to work well for him. But if this kind of thing is scary to people, you got to remember, like, if people come in kicking over the apple cart and just being jerks, then how much pressure is on you? Just be yourself. There are caveats to this, of course. Like, I'm a white male guy who doesn't have much money. Compared to a lot of people, I do. But compared to, like, Silicon Valley and all these people running around being fancy, I don't. And that's basically kind of cool because I don't have to care terribly much about things. Like, if you're a woman online, maybe it's not best to be doing a bunch of live streaming because you're going to get a bunch of weird attention. And who needs that? Let's see, I've already got this done. So now the next bit is to try to get these bits done. And, you know, in that light, like, being a white male living in Vermont without all that much by fancy people's standards is extreme privilege. If I was incredibly wealthy and had like security firms and stuff, that would also be privilege. But me being able to just be like, whatever, I'm online, come and be annoying or nice or whatever, be who you are and I'll be who I am. I have the privilege of getting to do that. So I do value the fact that that's true. I do value the fact that, like, hey, I get to be pretty much natural, regular Chris, whether that seems desirable or whether it's just kind of a waste of time or whatever. And it's working pretty well, but there is a level of privilege there because there are people who couldn't get away with it because who or what they are is more challenging to be. And it all kind of balances out. So before I explore that thought any further, what else do I need to know about this? I don't think I need to know anything about the stereoizing thing. Oh, the stereo widener plugin is SRSLY, seriously, because it is inspired by a hardware plugin by Hughes, as in Howard Hughes, believe it or not, that was originally for home stereo. Yeah. Well, I believe that the first thing I'm going to need to do is change these get parameters to just the letter. So I can at least do that. That's a start. Even if I'm tired and confused, I can figure out that much. it was really funny me trying to figure out, like, why does the attack still work? It assigns this thing and then it doesn't do anything. It's because it was a gate-related thing. Took me a while to figure that one out. D. And here we have an E. And then we have an F and a G. And that's where we get our slight volume boost from going into the resonant filter thing. Although, I would advocate for, seriously, 1 is the one that's going to be the most subtle. It's going to be the one that does its little tone quality, but doesn't do aggressive things with midside. And I had to update it because the purpose of making it was so that Chad could have something as a plugin that would aggressively do midside stuff and really push the effect in the way that he was doing with the hardware. So the Seriously 2 is the one that gets much more aggressive rather than just doing the tone quality changing things, which have to do with resonant filters, interestingly. And then Seriously 3 is Seriously 2 with the discontinuity effect added to the capacitors. So the filters had more of an analog quality than before. So you could say they keep getting better as they go, depending upon what you like. Or you could find one particular one that seemed to do better for you. It's all as maybe. Some of that stuff might find its way into Godot. If the people doing the 3D sound engine in Godot like the idea of that, I could advocate for them taking advantage of like what's in the original Seriously and just bringing in a little bit of that if they want. Bringing in a little bit of that, because you'll have positioning such as you could tap that into a 3D engine, and the 3D engine could tell you, this sound is behind you. Apply the behind you transfer function. And then you'd tell the Seriously to do that, and then you'd have like holographic spatial audio, but in the Godot engine. That could be cool. I could see that being a good thing. Anywho, I believe this is actually done. Not the whole thing, but this up top bit. Because I don't think there's anything further that I should do with it. I don't see any L's or R's there. So that would be what I want from that. Then I just have to take this, which is literally fitting on one screen. It's behind my face right now, but it's still fitting on one screen. So we'll do that. Copy that there. In the Godot meeting, they were all talking about how like, oh, you can do any amount of audio stuff. Audio stuff is so cheap. It's so easy to do that. And to some extent, they're correct. So let's see. Here is a double temp, and then here is the rest of it. So that would be the replacement. And that should be enough to make it go, except for that now we need to do all the stereo. That's fine. We can do that. We can do... We can reuse these if they stop being const. This stuff is fine. This stuff gets to stay. Also, we don't need these. But this stuff... Let's see how close we get. It's only 4:35. I probably can do this by the end of the day. Very small double precision version. So that one's going to go in there. Here we've got this. Assuming that that's what I'm going to want to do, let's take these constants away. Then let's do this with it. We'll hit save, and then we will rename that and rename everything in place. Now all the ones in my code are highlighted. Oops. Now all the ones in my code are updated. I don't think I get to rename this oh, I stand corrected. I totally do. Boom. How about this? Can we edit all of that in scope? Because we're not editing into other files, not with this old version of Xcode. Boom. Controls should be the same each time. A bunch of this stuff is going to be the same each time. Ooh, but I do have to do the low end band. But that takes up so little space that we can just do this. That's all it was. Oh, one more. So, having done this, in fact, let's run them together. We just do boop, boop, and find that capital L, and everywhere it appears, change it to capital R, but only within the selected stuff. Hold down Option, gives you input into selection. Boom. And then we have to remove these doubles because we're not redeclaring what was already declared, but every single one of these, it's just straight up an equal. Now we're reusing mfreak and memreso. Or are we? Do we even need to? I don't think we do. We do. Never mind. Yeah, do you see why I need to reuse mfreak and memreso? It's because they're playing off of CBA, which is the output of that channel. So I do in fact need to reuse those, even though they don't say L or R on them. Because we're not doing CBA or CBL as an output, because we can reuse the values with the new channel. But that means I do also have to do the frequency and reso based off of that channel, even though it is chasing. Oop, I have forgotten to do a band. There, now I remembered. And mfreak, oh no, we just defined that, didn't we? Freak and reso are the bases. And then mfreak and reso, those are also the bases. Those are what I'm applying to all of this. So in theory, this might be it. Let's find out. We're doing all of one channel first, and then we're doing all of another channel. Just after this fab stuff up top and before this part over here. Just like this. And we see whether it builds. It might. Maybe it has. And if it works, I go off and have tacos right away because I'll have really earned it. Mind you, I haven't done all of the Windows and Linux versions of it, but this would be the guts of it. This would be the heart of what I've done. If it is right the first time, I can just drag this over to here. And then this is the final output result of today's work, is both main kinds of plugin. So let's go back to that original sound. It is Twilight Sparkle's Eyes, because it makes the correct kinds of noises. Default. So it makes this rather aggressive noise. This is the audio unit version. If the VST makes the same rather aggressive noise, we're done. Let's find out whether this worked. It makes many other noises, but I know that if it makes that noise, that will suffice. Here's our default settings. Set this all the way down. Got there. Let's just get it to do some of its things. Oh, remember, give it a little resonance to have it more obvious. So that's a proper wah-wah kind of sound. And here's some of our crazy donut-y kind of stuff, where we've got it seemingly swooping up from each of the attacks. And we can make it resonant. This is the behavior that's going to become the formant filter. It's the fact that it can be this resonant. And with that, I'm going to call it a day because we successfully made donut. And I'm still looking for the person who's been asking me for it for months, but I think that worked. You'll find out. You'll find out. Vex Factor, is that who it was? Quest Factor. Alrighty. So I will see you folks later. I'm going to go off and have my tacos now. And it's slightly early. Oh, God, I've got 20 people hanging out. I can't think of anything furthermore for me to do, having finished Donut and the porting to VST. So I'll see you folks on Thursday. I feel like Thursday might be a good day for me to attempt the format one. I'm going to do what I can as far as doing some of my homework and sorting out how I can get those format frequencies set up the way they need to be. But until then, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.